how happy I am to be here. I actually spent a few hours before coming here in like a really awesome forest in Ireland. And that's like the best thing ever. But mashallah, your country is so beautiful. And alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to be back here again in this beautiful place. I have the privilege of talking about a topic that I love, and that is a topic of hope. I think that we need to have more discussions about this type of topic. And the reason why I believe it's so important that we have more discussions about this type of topic is I think that it's something which has gotten lost. So much of our discussion, especially our religious discussions, have been about more focused on fear, more focused on what we're afraid of, what's going wrong, and somehow along the way we've lost the concept which is very, very important in our deen, and that's the concept of hope, the concept of positivity. And somehow it's, and I don't, you know, to be fair, I don't blame us, because there's a lot of challenges that we're facing, yeah? There's a lot that's happening right now, that a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties that we are facing. So more than ever right now is a time where we need hope. And we need to focus on those things that give us hope, because that's how we're going to overcome, and that's how we're going to become strong. One of my favorite stories, well, I'm going to share two of them, but one of them is the story of Hajj. And, you know, this is a story which, you know, interestingly enough, is extremely relevant, especially right now, because we just completed the Hajj, the Hajj season, right? And this is a story that a lot of us, I mean, basically everyone knows this story. We learned it when we were kids, right? By the way, before I continue, let me just say something. I forgot to say this. I have a request. I have a request. As a speaker, I'm speaking almost as a one-way conversation right now, right? I'm up here, y'all are listening, we're not talking to each other, it's almost like I'm talking at you. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. I don't like that. I just don't like that. I would prefer that we have a two-way conversation, because I want us to connect. Well, because I can't sit and I can't talk back and forth with you, I'm going to ask you for something, and this is my request, all right? I'm going to ask you to be expressive in your faces. Thank you. Okay, what do I mean? There's something called nonverbal communication, because I can't communicate with you in words, so I'm going to ask you to communicate with me non-verbally, all right? What that means is body language. Okay, cool. What's that? Here's what it is. If I say something that you're feeling it, yeah? Be like. Or something like that, okay? If I say something that you absolutely disagree with, be like. You know what I'm saying? Just don't do this. Because folks, as a speaker, that throws me off. Because then I have no idea if I'm speaking in a language you don't understand, if I've just said something confusing, if I'm not being clear, or if you're just hungry. I have no way of knowing. And you were kind of doing that for a while, so I had to say it. All right, alhamdulillah. Yeah? You know what, the other thing too, us Americans, we're just a little bit expressive, and then you add to that Egyptian and you just That's me. So basically, back to Hajj. You have this woman, may Allah be pleased with her, who's in an impossible situation. She finds herself in the middle of the desert. You know what I'm saying? And not only is she in the middle of the desert, but she's in the middle of the desert with a baby. And at this point, she's got no water, she's got no one with her, yeah? And there's nowhere for her to go. But she has to figure out what to do. So what does she do? Now, this is important for me. There's so many lessons here, but one of them is that Hajar asks Ibrahim alayhi salam when he's walking away, did Allah tell you to do this? Is this a commandment from Allah? And the moment that he said yes, then at that point she was no longer afraid. Like at that point she had tawakkul. She knew that if this is from Allah, then Allah would take care of her and her child, yeah? That was the point where, okay, if Allah put her in it, then Allah would take her through it. From the very beginning, there's a lesson there. And that is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you into something, and you really put your trust in Him, what's He going to do? He's going to take care of you. He is going to suffice you. So she had that tawakkul at that point. So when she gets now to a point, now she's in this desert, and she's alone, and her husband is left, and she's alone with her child. Now she's in a state of tawakkul. We've already said that she has trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what does a person do when they have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Sometimes we confuse this idea of this concept of trust, of tawakkul, with being passive, right? Not really doing anything. Oh, I have trust in Allah. She could have just, because she had trust in Allah, she could have just sat there and waited, right? And done nothing. I'm seeing a blank faces. Do you feel me? Yeah. Okay. You guys are just not used to like. Okay. I'm gonna have you guys really expressive by the time we leave this class. Woohoo! About everything. She could have just sat there and waited for water to come from the sky, right? She could have, because she has tawakkul. Allah will take care of me. But did she do that? No, she actually, even though she had trust in Allah, she knew Allah would take care of her, she still struggled, and she still strived. And this is where that idea of tying the camel comes in. You know the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, the companion, had a camel, and he wasn't tying the camel. And the reason he was not tying the camel is because he had his trust in Allah. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches him is that you need to, he said to him, the famous hadith, i'aqilha wa tawakkal. I'aqilha, meaning tie it, wa tawakkal. Can somebody translate that for me? Anyone? Loudly? Tie and have trust in Allah. Tie and have trust in Allah. You actually translated it awesomely. Is that a word? Yeah. Awesome. Most of the time, people translate this as tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah. Right? How many of you thought that's what it was? Tie your camel, everyone's scared to raise their hand. Tie your camel and then put your trust in Allah. What's the problem here? It seems like a subtle point, but it's actually very important. He's teaching us a very